This is what frustrates me on that slant call that we threw to Denzel, that linebacker comes over. Should we go motion there just to see if they're in zone or see if they're in man-to-man? Because all they did was maybe they were showing zone. Damon, I think, thought they were in zone, but Adam Muhammad runs that route out to the flat, which what does it do? Takes that linebacker with him, and that linebacker just steps right into the pass.
Husky coaching staff has an immediate get-right opportunity, specifically on offense. You have a chance to make up for what happened at Michigan.
I think what you're saying is right. And if you start attacking the edges with not just Damon, but think about like the jet sweeps, you're going to start getting them moving laterally, and you have those open field opportunities against guys who struggle at tackling, as opposed to running it into the teeth where they tackle a little bit more efficiently.
UW on third down converts at 52% like we talked about. That's 11th in the country. Illinois, they struggle getting teams off on third down. They're 121st in the country. If they can't get us off the field, and that's something with Damon, and he will just make your life hell.
Welcome to the Dubbed Up Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Flaunt. This week, we're going to get into the 24-7 beating we took in Ann Arbor. We're going to talk about Illinois. But before we get into the Michigan game, Florida's head coach, Billy Napier, got fired, what was it, yesterday or the day before?
Day before, yeah.
And now the Jedd Fisch rumors are flowing like the wines of Capistrano. Izzo, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you think about the Jedd Fisch rumors? Do we give them any life, or is it just a bunch of BS?
The laundry list of head coaches who will be lined up for that position is massive. And to think that Jedd has done enough at Washington thus far or has the resume with recency bias included to where the fan base of Florida would be super excited by that hire compared to the field is just, it's not there. So I'm not worried about it. Do I think Fisch would take a Florida job in the right scenario over where he's at today? Maybe. But I do think that what is being built here from a recruiting standpoint, the momentum there, just the trajectory is heading toward a long sustainable build that he's like halfway through, or like two-thirds of the way through. To bail and take everybody to Florida and to be able to take these athletes from West Coast athletes all the way to Florida, I just don't see it, man. It's not taking a job at UCLA physically, where you can kind of be like, well, you're closer to there's a lot of Arizona players on our roster. You're not going to get them all to go to Florida, like there's a big move there. And I don't think, no. In short, I'd give it like a 2% chance.
Okay. Noah?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I put something on Twitter and it said something like the Jedd Fisch decision and those hiring and firing, et cetera, all those things are above our control. I just don't want to see Pat Chun and the athletic department get bullied by his agent, to end up giving him some raise, or we're going to try to save him to keep him at UW. And I had people coming back and saying things to me like, well, don't you want to have some stability? The thing is, do we give him a raise or some sort of extension if we get to 9 wins and have an opportunity to go to 10? You get, in a bowl game, get to 10 wins, have an opportunity to go to 11 and maybe a college football playoff. Yeah, let's have the conversation. But I just don't want to start having these conversations when we're 5-2. I don't want to have them when we're 6-2, 5-3. Have them when there are things that make it so we should give him extension. I want to pay for performance, and that's what I'm looking for.
If we had won last week, it would be a different conversation. I will say that. But yep. I think the loss at Michigan was at the absolute worst time, if that was the goal. And all of what Noah is saying right there is dependent upon whether or not that there is a belief that Florida really wants to hire him over the field. And if I'm Pat Chun, I'm pretty skeptical of that, frankly, because there's a lot of coaches who want that position, man. That's a top 15 job in college football, in my opinion.
Is it in your position though? Is it a better job than Washington?
I think it's like on par. So
that's kind of what I feel.
I know the only reason why is, to your point, the only reason why he is even like linked is because that's his alma mater. But to your point, does his alma mater even want him right now? I mean, that's not yet.
Funny. Yeah, maybe the next job after this one, next offering, maybe. But even then, the Big Ten could be.
Right now the Big Ten is the powerhouse.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think we kind of get it.
Yeah, and I say this: you don't give him an extension till he beats Oregon. It's that
Ooh,
simple. Beat
I love
Oregon,
that.
and we can start talking about an extension. All right. Before we get into the Michigan game recap, I want you guys to do me a favor. Go hit the like, subscribe buttons, leave comments. It really helps with the algorithm, gets us in front of eyes. So let's move on. We had a rough day in Ann Arbor. I'm not gonna pull any punches. We didn't look good. 24-7 doesn't look good. But let's get into breaking down the game and the nuts and bolts of it. Noah, I'm gonna start with you. Give me a little recap of what you think, how we played, and what we could do, hopefully a little bit better.
When you lose the turnover battle 3-0, probably should have been 4-0. You ain't gonna win many games. I mean, but man, there were so many emotional swings in this game. Two different plays where, it's just kind of the lull, and then my confidence, boom, skyrockets back up. That 31-yard pass to RVB right before half, where we scored the touchdown. I mean, that's probably the best throw, in a situation I've seen Damon make in his short career. How about the fourth down stop, mid third quarter with about 8 minutes to go? I mean, just 4th and 2, Marsh just made that nice little slant catch. Dude, we had 10 guys in the box, 4 defensive linemen, 2 outside linebackers on the line of scrimmage. Then we bring McKellisteen down on the line of scrimmage as well. I mean, we had 10 guys in the box. And Armand Parker and X-Ray, man, both make big plays, get that stop. And it's like, you're just right back in it. You're like, dude, we're fine. We're fine. And then we get a couple punts back and forth. And this is where, to your point, Mike, it's just interesting. It's because as 24-7 we lose, but with 1:32 to go in this game, I mean, in the third quarter, it was 7-7. Damon throws that pick on a play that I'll talk about a little bit, just on the miscommunications, but then the wheels kind of fall off. But I'll wrap it up with this. But to be frank, this game just really disappoints me. You have a second string, very heavy second string Michigan. No Justice Haynes, which I thought was kind of the key to the game. Is like, if he doesn't play, I mean, that's kind of a huge piece for us. They were out their top 2 tight ends. Keep in mind, Hogan Hansen was one of those guys, kid from Bellevue. They lose their top offensive lineman right when the game starts. They had no Rod Moore on defense. I said this was my first thought right after the game, and it might sound crazy to some people, but this loss, to me, it felt very Jimmy Lake-ish, man. I don't know why, but it did. And I know that's a shot, but it really did. It felt very Jimmy Lake era-ish to me, man. It was just one of those games you had to have, and we just didn't show up.
Do you think that was more because of how it just kind of was so close, and then, like you said, in the span of less than a quarter, just got out of hand?
You give the ball to them in your own red zone multiple times. I mean,
yeah,
it's rough. Get ugly quick, man.
It's rough. Izzo, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, this game, I think, at a high level, just makes you a little bit nervous about Demond. Like, I thought, I'd said it multiple times that I thought that what he did at Maryland progressed him very fast. And I think maybe I put a little bit too much of an expectation on him. And I think that as a staff, we're asking a lot of him. And in a down game like this, where, like Noah said, he probably should have had 4 turnovers. That first, it was either the first or the second drive where he threw that out route, and another miscommunication. Denzel breaks in, Damon throws it out. They had that in a bread basket. That was going to be a pick 6 too, by the way. We gave them short fields. It's worrisome given that they had a extra day of preparation. Yes, it's on the road in Michigan, but some of the miscues and the miscommunications between your wideouts and your quarterback was just a little bit mind numbing. Maybe we're putting too much on him. Put too much of the offense revolves around him. Like in a game against a defense that is stout against the run. Especially with the offensive line injuries, and Quentin Moore getting hurt. The fact that he wasn't on his P's and Q's, and you had the offensive line woes that were kind of keeping him from getting settled in the second half. That's, to me, kind of the overarching theme of this game. The defense I thought played well.
The defense eventually was getting worn out because they were just on the field so much. And I think that's kind of what led to it. Do you guys think that the noon start had anything to do with them coming out flat, or is this just something that we're starting to see from Jedd Fisch's teams?
I definitely do. I definitely do think it had an impact. This is funny and not necessarily like a legitimate reason, but Cam Cleland posted a video from his hotel room the night before the game, and it was like before they were winding down and going to bed and all that. And he posted a video of a wedding that was happening like the block next to them, and they could hear "You Shook Me All Night Long" by AC/DC playing from inside their hotel. He was like, "Do you think this is
An accident?"
purposeful, or what do you think?" But I just thought that was funny, and I do think it does play an impact. I mean, Damon and the wide receivers were not on the same page so often that you'd have to think that it played in somewhere. It played into it. You know what I mean? I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Noah, but
No, I'm laughing because I don't mean to name drop, but I just think it's hilarious. I was texting with Tony Castricone that night, and I was like, "How you feeling about the game, buddy?" And he goes, "Well, it's 10 p.m. Eastern. We all need to be up at like 6 a.m. And there's a wedding at this hotel that is blaring music that is reverberating through multiple floors."
oh god, that's awesome.
It's just like, I mean, it's funny because, and then I did see Cam post that, but I mean, you know, does it matter? Did it matters? You know, playing in the big house is hard enough. Playing in the big house at, you know, when your internal clock's at 9 a.m. is tough too. But when you have an offensive line that is injured so bad, and then you have to bring in your third string offensive line, offensive tackle, which I'm sorry, man, he's not good enough to play in the Big Ten. He's not. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. You just get exposed, and games can flip on their heads quick, man. And you can say what you want about Damon, that he didn't play good, and there's miscommunication, and I agree, and I'll talk about that. You know, but it's like, it's tough when you slide the line. We're sliding the line left to protect Solo, so so we can give him some help. But then that leaves Decker DeGraff on an island trying to block one of the best defensive ends in the Big Ten, and then it just, Damon gets freaking his head ripped off. There are certain teams that when you play them, if you're not fully healthy or really damn close, dude, the game gets flipped quick, and all of a sudden it's 7-7 with 1:32 to go, and now you're down 24-7 with 8 to go in the fourth. I mean, it's just bing, bang, boom, and the game's over.
Okay, well, you know what then? That's actually a perfect segue. Let's move to the UW offense, or lack thereof, and why was it so damn hard to get going? And I think, Noah, you kind of hit on a couple of those things with the injuries, Quentin Moore, Max McCree, and then the significant drop-off that we take when we go to these next guys in line, whether it's Decker having to block instead of just pass catch, or Solo having to fill in for McCree, which we saw the drop-off from Willis to McCree when we went to McCree. Do you think that's the main thing that is causing this team to struggle so bad?
I mean, it's surely what's making the run game struggle. I'll tell you that. I think it's a direct correlation to Carver and Mills being out, especially Carver. And then like you said, then Max goes down. But here's something kind of interesting, guys. I was going to bring this up because I wanted to talk about this. Ever since Carver Willis went out of the game in the Ohio State game, if you remember the Ohio State game, we were chunking plays. Jonah was chunking plays against him in the first half. Then Carver gets hurt, and since then, Jonah's gone 57, 44, and 50 on the ground. If you're telling me there's not a direct correlation, I don't know. I don't know what it is, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that is where we are struggling in the run game, and we kind of we kind of suppressed it a little bit. And we kind of hit it because Damon goes for 136 last game, and we're disguising with all his runs and his RPOs. But the thing is, that's why if we can't block up front, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win games in the Big Ten, man. I want to go back to some of this miscommunication. It's easy to sit here and say that Damon, miscommunication, wide receivers, they were off. The tight end, what was he doing? But you got to tip your hat a little bit to Wink Martindale, don't you? I mean, he was showing man. He was showing man going into running zone. Yeah. He was showing pressure, dropping into coverage. But the comms were just off all day. That very first hitter to Boston, we got lucky there like we talked about. How about the slant call? This is what frustrates me on that slant call that we threw to Denzel, that linebacker comes over. Should we go motion there just to see if they're in zone or see if they're in man-to-man? Because all they did was maybe they were showing zone. Damon, I think, thought they were in zone, but Adam Muhammad runs that route out to the flat, which what does it do? Takes that linebacker with him, and that linebacker just steps right into the pass, and he probably should have went pick six on that too, but I think Decker or somebody tackled him.
And then how about the miscommunication on the Decker throw? Is he sitting in the route or is it an outbreaking route? I mean, you just can't have those. The long pass to Boston, I mean, he should have caught that ball and he drops it. So I mean, I'm not really going to put that on Damon, but it just seemed all day we were off, and we haven't really seen a lot of like mistakes like that. So that's kind of why I think to a certain degree, I'm kind of like, hey man, you got this NFL pedigreed Wink Martindale type DC. He was kind of playing, with his, the kind of coming with a battled and bruised defense and offense. But did they came to play? They kind of just leaned on us. And like I said, before you know it, that game's turned on its head and the game's over.
Hey, so then I got a question for you then.
Yeah.
With the run game shut down, what should UW be doing to still be dangerous on the ground?
Go ahead, Izzo. You want me to take it?
Well, I mean, hopefully it becomes a point in the past because hopefully you're getting John Mills and Carver Willis back this week. I mean, I think Noah just hit the nail on the absolute head with that whole just explanation of everything that went down. Like, I hadn't even considered, motion to check to see if they're in zone or man. And I bet you in hindsight, they absolutely wish that they did. Like, he was just dead set on Adam Muhammad, and that ball was thrown right at that linebacker's chest, And you do got to give it to Wink. I mean, I'll say this: like they coached on defense, like their job's dependent upon it. And I think
I think it did.
After USC, I mean, that's kind of how it seemed. They were nails on defense, and they took advantage of every mismatch that they possibly could. They shut down like a top 15 offense in all of college football and just made it look somewhat easy. And they played on the youth of the offense and to their advantage. I don't really have, I have a bunch of notes on this game. I don't think any of it holds a candle to what Noah just said and breaking that down. That's an explanation for all of what happened on Saturday. Like the run game has been ineffective the last couple of weeks since those boys went down on the left side of the line. McCree started to step into his own, but then gets hurt. And then you bring in Solo, and then you lose Quentin Moore, who is the guy that you need right there to offset the fact that you're starting your third string left tackle now. And it is what it is. The rest is kind of watch the game. The rest is history on that whole offensive output from UW.
To answer your question, let me say this, Mike. With a run game shut down, what should UW do? I don't know how you do it, Jedd. I don't know how you do it. You just got to use the legs of the most electric quarterback in the country. That's Damon Williams. I don't care if he has 4 turnovers. I don't care if he's playing terrible. You got to use his legs more. That's what makes him so elite. He can't have 2 design runs in a game. He needs 8. He needs 8 design runs every game.
So that actually gives, I have a few questions now for both of you guys. First thing is that the thing about Damon running, he had 3 design runs in the whole game. Is that more of a result of what Michigan was doing defensively, or is that just Jedd Fisch dropping the ball and us getting behind the 8 ball and having to feel like we have to throw the ball the whole time?
I'm not in the room, so I can't answer that. But I'm going to tell you, man, there's so many different times that we ran a play, and I'm like, that's a perfect opportunity to run the design run right there. How about something this simple? Let's just say this real quick. How about even if you don't want to give him a design run, how about moving the pocket a little bit so then he can have a run pass option, not the traditional run pass option, just move the pocket a little bit like they were doing with Underwood. How about that? How about that? It's so difficult to do. I mean, just freaking move the pocket. And then you give your quarterback an option to, hey, if they're not going to come out with me, I'm going to run it. Oh, if they're going to come out with me, then you probably have, you have somebody coming on a crosser. I mean, it's simple football that we need to be better. I wasn't coming in here to talk about Jedd and his play calling, but you know what? Maybe there is an issue there.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Let's go. Hey, this is the time to do that. Talk about it.
It's simple though. If you don't want to call design runs, okay, fine. Cool. Call 3 a game, but move the pocket so it gives him the opportunity.
Okay.
No notes.
Yep.
No notes.
Well, you know what? And I mean, that raises, like I said, a whole bunch of more questions. Jedd came out in his presser and was like, hey, I didn't get Damon properly ready. Well, come on, man. We are in game 6 or 7 of the season. And it's
a Big Ten, dog.
It's a Big Ten. And these are the biggest games. You're not going and playing Purdue. You're playing Michigan in the Big House. Why are you not doing everything you can do to make sure your guys are ready? That's one problem I have. The second one is this. Why is Fa Solo still playing? What was his grade, Izzo?
It was extremely low. I think he registered an actual 0 on PFF. You can take that for what it's worth. I mean, I don't know what constitutes a 0 grade in PFF. Obviously, that's not reality, but it wasn't good. But they were forced to play him.
This is what my point is why do we keep putting him in? Like, there's freshmen, there's guys at other positions. How much worse can you get than a 0?
I mean, like we said, I mean, we were not in the rooms or not at practices, but from what I had heard, he is the third left tackle. You got to do your job. You know, I don't know if I putting Fa Solo in on Jedd. I just think that what Noah said was hitting the nail on the head. Like you have to have a subsection of that call sheet that's for, hey, we're scheming away from the left side of the offensive line. What do we do here? And it's exactly what Noah said. It's design runs and moving the pocket away and not trying to dial up timing routes and 1-2, two reads all game through the third quarter. So I think Noah nailed that whole spiel again. Like that's what you have to do. You're right, dude. There's no arguing that. And the criticism that Jedd is putting on himself, rightfully so, and that he's getting from the media that is the piece to point toward. Like if you're going to criticize Jedd in terms of play calling and coaching, that's where you weren't ready. Was for when Q Moore went out and when you were out in your third string left tackle, which is a hard thing to contend with, especially with a freshman quarterback. So you give him those nods, but this is, like we said, deep into the Big Ten now. The game 3, game 4 of the Big Ten schedule. You can't be making these mistakes.
Cade Eldridge getting hurt and being out for the season hurts a lot too, because that's the other guy that was really blocking. Do you think Jedd has any issues with having to pull these red shirts from these guys so far into the seasons? If, say, Baron Naone or Austin Simmons, or
of course he does, yeah. Yeah. It affects their whole trajectory of how their college script goes if you have to yank a red shirt this deep into a season, Of course, the kid will be like, yeah, I'm down to play. Like, let's go. But also, you have like the Jacob Manu situation where he's like, he's fighting this internal battle of, do I play, do I not, if the NCAA is going to call this a year, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I guess it's hard then as Husky fans to be okay with, hey, you're not doing then everything you can do to win now.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to do it.
You're looking at 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
There's just so much that goes into that decision because we don't know. Like, you put Decker, like now that's less snaps for Decker. Do you need him out there to kind of hide pass plays to Decker himself off the left side? There's so many things that impacts in play calling. It all rolls downhill.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's switch now. Unless you guys have anything you guys want to say left upon the offensive performance in Ann Arbor.
Just that shout out to Girian Hatchett, man. Yeah. Shoot. Best game by far probably of his career in college football was this last weekend. He graded out as the highest offensive grade player on our entire team. Watching it back, I didn't notice any blunders that he had. I'm sure it wasn't 100% perfect, but it was damn near close. He had a great game. Him and Pocky both were great.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? That's good, because pulling a silver lining through this cloud
that's the only one.
That's the only one that we got to take. We got to take what we can get. All right. Let's flip to the other side of the ball now. I'll be honest, I thought the defense played relatively well for the first 3 quarters of the game. I saw guys getting pressure, the DBs stepping up. The big 4th down stop was amazing.
Yeah, and then immediate pick, and they're back on the field.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it played out. So Izzo, looking at what the defense did, because I think there's a lot more silver lining in the cloud on the defensive side of the ball than on the offensive side of the ball.
I thought Michigan did what they were trying to do on offense, which was be methodical. Their run game popped in leverage opportunities with Jordan Marshall's 14-yard touchdown. Right after the pick, they had several 5 to 7 yard gashes on us. I thought that we were getting sporadic pressure our corners played pretty well. Marsh is, like we talked about him, he's very freaking good. Their tight ends were solid. They didn't attack the slot that much, and so Rashawn had a good game. They only threw to him twice, and on those two, he gave up 7 yards, a completion. I thought he was fine there. DeCario played a solid game. I just think that we gave them short yard, we just gave them turnovers, man. They had a couple of good drives where they were able to get downfield and extend the drive a little bit. This game is not on the defense. It's, 100% them being put in bad situations, which is why they even scored 27, 28 or whatever they did, So I think if you don't have those turnovers, you're looking at Michigan scoring 17 points and UW winning that game. Heading into the second half, I thought we had this thing in tow.
Noah, what did you think about the defensive performance?
Yeah, I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. But I mean, I thought the defense played well as well. Usually when a team holds another team to 50% or less on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth, dude, you have a good chance to win that game. But do you know that they were on the field? Defense was on the field for 38 minutes in that game.
Wow.
They just got gassed. Kind of an interesting insight I noticed. Do you know Michigan only scored on the missed field goal we had and then on our turnovers? That's the only time. So when UW made them go a full possession, whatever you want to call that, make them go the full field, dude, they were over. Didn't score anything. And here's the other little issue I'll say that I've been noticing way too often. Once again, defense played well. But when our safeties continuously are our top tacklers, that's an issue. That means that they're making too many tackles down the field. McLaughlin led the team with 8. Esteen also had 8. And it's just those little things that I'm starting to notice is, hey, we kind of got this bend, don't break. But when they get the ball, and they only got a short field, it's a lot easier to break when we don't have all those plays. So I will say though, I thought Walters kind of had a nice game plan. I thought we did a pretty good job shutting down the run to start. And you could tell with Justice Haynes out, they didn't have like that initial pop. And our big boys up front, they played all right until kind of late in that game. They really did.
And they had that. We were talking about this before we got on air. That they had a nice setup where they had ZRS, Jacob Manu, and Alexander all on the field at once, and it was highly effective. I actually really, really like having the 3 linebackers on the field and what it does against the run. So basically, what we saw though is the defense held up until they were put in terrible position after terrible position after terrible position, and because it's not a dominant defense but a bend don't break defense, it starts getting exposed when you have a 15-yard field or a 27-yard field or whatever. And that's kind of why we ended up where we ended up. We're going home. We're playing another 5-2 Big Ten foe as Illinois comes into town. And Illinois, I mean, they came into the season, I think they were ranked 11th in the country when the season started. And, they had some tough losses, but they're still 5-2. Fellas, as we're looking forward to this game, because it is such a big game for UW, what are kind of the key points that we have to look at as UW fans going into this game? Noah, kick us off with this one.
12:30 kickoff on Montlake. The weather is actually might actually play into our favor a little bit. It's going to be 52, but there's definitely a chance of rain. UW's played Illinois 11 times, which is actually kind of surprising to me, which I when I was doing a little bit of research, our first game dates all the way back to 1950. Here's a little trivia. Last time we played UW, do you guys remember that game? I'm sorry, last time we played Illinois, yeah. Do you remember that game?
Mm-mm.
It was UW at Illinois. It was actually played in Chicago at Soldier Field. Chris Peterson's first year. Siler Miles had like 3 touchdowns.
Siler Miles, wow.
Shaq Thompson scored a defensive touchdown in that game. I think we won like 44-19 or something. Kind of a domination. But they come in ranked 23. Kind of interesting. Vegas has UW open this game up at 4.5. UW is the favorite. It's grown to about 5.5. It's sitting right there, depending on what book. You have a total of 53.5 in this game. But I'll tell you guys have heard me talk about it. 4th pod now. Another team coming into Seattle, coming off a bye. Illinois didn't play this past week, so they get a full 14 days to get ready for this game.
It's just peachy, man.
Yeah,
It's just,
another one.
it's just, welcome gift after welcome gift, man. And it's brutal. But you know what? It's we chose to be in the Big Ten, and that's kind of where we are. So, yeah.
Yep.
Kind
And
of fun.
they're coming off a loss to Ohio State 2 weeks ago. Izzo, what do you think?
Illinois has a kind of this three-headed monster in the backfield with their running backs that they like to deploy. But if you can kind of keep Altmaier in these third and long situations and play into him throwing up against these DBs, I think there might be a turnover swing in our direction, which we need after this game. Their front seven is their pass rushing grade through PFF is an 85. Their run defense is an 82. They're not going to give you any free points. We have to lean on the quick game, in my opinion. The RPO stuff, get Jonah going up in the middle. If you're, not feeling confident on the left side of your line, then put Jonah on the left side of Demond and have him run the RPO. And have them guessing as to whether or not we're going to run the ball with Demond. I think that has to happen. Illinois in the red zone, they're 83% of scores allowed. So once they get down there, they do tend to allow scores. And so that's got to be where we win.
All right, well, then let's do this. Let's take a look at that Illinois offense because it has been relatively potent. You have a quarterback that's thrown for over 1,800 yards, 13 TDs, 1 interception. You have 4 receivers that all can do different things, and they score a lot of touchdowns. I mean, if you watch how the touchdowns are spread out amongst the top 4 or 5 of those guys, it's all kind of going to like 3 or 4 specific dudes. Let's dive in. Izzo, when you're looking at this offense, they got a elder statesman quarterback who's really playing well this season. What are we going to do about this offense?
They set up the runs with the RPO and play action stuff. They're obviously pass first under Looney Jr., their offensive coordinator. They struggled against Ohio State, but I don't even know what you can really take from Ohio State games anymore. Like Ohio State was able to get 4 sacks in that game. Against Purdue, he threw for 390 and 4 touchdowns, and then he goes to Ohio State and just doesn't do as well with not clean pockets. We're going to have to get pressure on him, obviously, like we say every single week, but this one probably more so than others. Put him in third and long as much as you possibly can. If you get into this bend, don't break stuff, and you let them drive a little bit and then they're forced into third and long in the red zone, or, on our side of the field, inside the 35, that's when you can have success. They're at 43% on third. They're 68% touchdown rate in the red zone. So they struggle once they get down there. So that kind of plays into some strengths on our defense. And if it's raining and they have a couple blunders, we can keep this low scoring. They have this wide receiver, Colin Dixon. He stretches the field. He's the shot, the shot play target, the guy who they're going to try to hit deep. He's at 17 plus yards per reception in that range. So he's their deep guy. They love to do the play action over routes, the slot wheels. That's where they get their chunks. I would expect they go to the tight end a lot in this game. But yeah, they struggle if he's getting sacked and Altmaier if they're giving up more than 2-3 sacks in a game, that's when things start to fall apart for them, obviously. But more so with Illinois, they need to be nails on the third and long. One of their running backs, he is huge. His name's Fegan. He's listed at 255 as a running back. I think he's probably closer to 245, but he is a beast, and they like him in the short yardage spots and in the red zone. So watch for him. But they kind of, like I said, they have this like 3-headed monster running back kind of tandem that they have. But I'll kind of stop there and pitch it over to Noah. I want to hear his thoughts on how this has to go.
It's interesting when you look at that Caden Fegan kid. You know who he reminds me of? Izzo. Definitely not as good. I'm surely not saying that, but man, he reminds me a little bit of the New York Giants of Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call.
He's a defensive lineman. A small defensive lineman playing running back. Man, I mean, it's.
I thought you were going to go with the Iowa running back from last year. What's his name? That's struggling in the NFL.
Johnson.
Caleb Johnson.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when I look at this Illinois team, their pro style spread a lot of shotgun sets, man. I mean, that's Luke Altmaier lives in the shotgun, a lot of 11 personnel that they'll run, double tight end like you're talking about, Izzo. What's interesting, people talk about Altmaier, as being like this elite passer, and we talk about his efficiency at, 72%. But but he loves, man, they love running RPO with him. He has 45 carries on the year. And it doesn't seem like he has a lot of yards because he's kind of been sacked quite a bit. But dude, he'll get in the end zone if you let him, and he can run the ball. But he is incredibly efficient, man. 13 touchdowns to 1 interception. Here's a little something you got to think about. What is one thing we talked about with these young quarterbacks we've seen the last couple of weeks? Malik Washington, Bryce Underwood. They all had those 58, 59% completion percentage. Now you're going into Kelly McManus, Kelly McManus, that's his new name for me. And now you're going into Luke Altmaier range. I mean, 72%, they complete a ton. But it's weird because they do run the ball like still at like a 55% clip, but Altmaier will hit you at 9.3 yards per attempt, which is like top 10 in the country. So even though, they look like they're a little bit, run heavy, dude, Altmaier's, their heartbeat is with him. A couple struggles, though, I've noticed with this team. I think, Izzo, you kind of talked about this. Their third down efficiency is weirdly low for having such a veteran quarterback. I think they're the team's at like 42%, but like him alone, when he passes, he's under 40. He's like 36, 37%, which UW's at 52.5. So it's kind of a weirdly low for having just a veteran play caller the way they do. The other thing I thought is very interesting is this. They brought back their full offensive line from 24 to 25. Usually a really good thing. But this O-line has struggled in pass pro. They've already given up 23 sacks on the year. And that's why you see Altmaier, have a negative rushing because he's just been getting sacked so much. So, I think we need to bring some different stuff. We'll talk about that. But I think that's what we really need to see is if they're gonna kind of allow him to get pressure. That's what Ryan Walters' defense needs to do.
Yeah, you need those simulated pressures in this game for sure, and you need to get them into third and medium, third and long on a consistent basis. And I think they lean on the run to set up the pass a lot in this offense. And that's how they try to disguise it. That accounts for some of these, these poor completion percentages on third down or third down conversion percentages is because of that. Also, as they get down into the red zone, their scheme becomes kind of more obvious down there. Whereas in the middle of the field, they're more, this RPO stuff is, I think, a little bit more effective because a lot of the defenses are playing off a bit. But once that gets condensed, everything becomes a little bit less effective.
Windows get tighter. All the
So you're right, and I think I saw that a lot on the tape. I saw specifically 74 being their left tackle being very susceptible to the speed rush. Isaiah Ward. So fellas, and no, I'm gonna start with you on this one. What do they need to do to be successful? What does UW have to do to get this to work?
Yeah, and I mean, I think because they like the RPO and the play action, like Izzo's talking about so much, I think you have to win first down and just kill that RPO threat. I really do, because if the threat isn't the run and we're just going to have him pass, I think it just takes a lot of pressure off our linebackers. Do they come up to stop the run, or can they get back into coverage? So win the first down and kill the RPO is my first thing. And the other note I had, Izzo said this was the run sets up the pass. I mean, they're big on play action, but if we can take out that run game, I think it's huge. The other thing I want to see, you guys talked about 3 different wide receivers. Kind of interesting to me because who pops on tape to me is that Hank Beatty guy.
Yep. He has the most catches for them.
Yeah. And he kind of seems like he's the valve, for he's the release valve for Altmaier. But one thing about him, he's 5'11", 175. I want to see some straight up old school death row dogs, man, man press on these wide receivers.
Punch him in the mouth.
Press. And I don't know how extremely athletic. Like, I don't think these guys are going to, they're not going to out tough you. They're not going to I mean, they don't have these elite big time, type receivers. I think you can get up in them and press them. So that's kind of the 4 areas I think you can kind of win on, what you're going to have to do to be successful against this Illinois offense.
Would you bracket Beatty?
I would, yeah. I personally would. Yeah. I would.
Izzo, you wouldn't? I see you shaking your head.
No, I want us to key in on the tight end.
Okay.
The reason why I would bracket Beatty, and it's only on third and longs. I wouldn't do it a lot, but I would take him out of the offense, and I would say, hey, let's see who else can beat me.
That's
Yeah.
kind of my thought. I think Altmaier, going back to him being like that veteran presence, even though that's who he is, it seems like to me when I watch the film, it's like when he gets in a hectic spot, when he has to make a third down, he's going to beat almost every time. So it's kind of
Okay.
my thought on that.
The reason I keyed in on Dixon as the wide receiver I wanted to mention was because he has the 17 plus yards per reception, and I think that he is that guy that will try to beat you over the top, and I think that they will lull you to sleep with this RPO stuff, and then when they take the deep shot, I think it's to him, and I think if they want to beat us with a Takario, Efi, or even like a Rashawn on him, that I will take our corners in that matchup against these receivers all day. And so I think if you're going to scheme for a wide receiver, let them try to beat you in the middle of the field with him, with Beatty, and then try to take away the deep shot. But I want to see us do something different this week to shut down that tight end, because it is to me, the most glaringly obvious matchup advantage that they have. And especially with this RPO stuff, if it's the quick pull and then pass on the RPO, it's going to be to that tight end. That's a way that they can continue to sustain drives and kind of wear you down, and maybe try to deploy something similar to what Michigan was doing in this game, which was lengthy drives and control the clock. And obviously, turnovers made that shift that direction heavily. But that's my thought on how you kind of scheme for this team.
Yeah. No.
One thing I was going to say is one thing I noticed when I watch this team is I think we're kind of built to beat this team, like from a defensive, defensive personnel. Do you remember in what was like 16, 17, 18, Mike Leach, Minshew, Wazoo was just like dinking and dumping, 50 yards, 50 passes a game, just going up the field, killing everybody, 10 win type teams. Then they play the Huskies, and the Huskies had 6 DBs. They could all tackle. The hell, all of them are in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like we were just 100% built to be like, yeah, you can throw the ball all you want, but we can tackle you in space, and you're not athletic enough to beat us.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at this game and look at Altmaier and the weapons he has. I think our defense is long. I think our safeties, I think even our cornerbacks, our elite man press guys. I think these wide receivers are going to have a hell of a time with the physicality and length of our corners.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like when they go up against well-coached defenses too, they really struggle. They've been terrible in those games.
Yep. I think what you're saying about keeping the man up on the wide receivers is important. I think the only thing I would do a little bit different is in the red zone, make sure that Bowick is covered by either Takario or Efi, being that he's a 6'4" guy. And like I said, 12 receptions and 4 TDs leading their team is. And I watched the specific play against Ohio State where he went right up over one of their corners for a touchdown pass, and it was just a jump ball, and he outmuscled an Ohio State corner. You know what I'm saying? So he definitely has a little bit. He has a little bit of that. The rest of the guys, though, I don't think there's a guy over 6'1", and I think our DBs will definitely have the physical prowess to push them guys around. As we look to the Illinois defense, they're tough. They've been able to stifle lots of teams that they've played. Izzo, what makes this Illinois defense so effective?
They're good in pass rush and against the run defense. Just to give you an idea, at a high level, PFF grades their pass rush at an 85, their run defense at an 82. They're going to win matchups with twists, a deep interior defensive line rotation. The 2 edges that they have play more than pretty much anybody else on their defense outside of a safety or 2. Their safeties are constantly on the field. They don't rotate those guys a lot, but their edges, they kind of play consistently throughout the game, and they rotate the interior quite a bit. And for good reason, their edges are nasty, and we'll talk more about them. But outside of that, the secondary is absolutely beatable. It's probably the weak point on their entire team. They have only gotten 2 picks this entire year. They play this kind of cover 3 quarters to protect these weak corners that they have. I think with Walter's departure and some of the others, departing pieces of the defense that they didn't replace, I think if we're patient, but we layer in concepts to where we are doing some RPO reads, like we need a good mix of everything. It can't be like we stick to the RPO and that's it. We need to kind of see Damon take that next step with being able to get through a couple reads also. It can't just be all in on the RPO. Tackling, they've been, hit and miss on money downs, third down. They've been shaky, to be honest with you, and that has to do with the fact that their secondary has been pretty shaky. If the rush isn't getting home and Damon can get outside and we are moving that pocket and he's able to get through a couple reads and we're not doing the timing stuff, that's when we can be super effective and kind of honestly maybe put it to them and kind of blow the doors off and have this be a get right game is really on that piece. So we need the offense to be clicking kind of in all facets, and we need just a more, I don't know what the right word is to say, like a more hard to figure out offensive scheme. It can't be one dimensional. The players to watch for them, they've got a bunch, and we'll talk about the front seven for them specifically and the defensive line specifically. But the Gabe Akis, I believe is how his name is pronounced. It's a soft J or a silent J at edge. He's probably a future NFL guy. He's been their best disruptor in the pass game. Carver hasn't been lights out against a solid pass rush, but if it's him and Mills back too, that can help us out massively. But man, if we put out a guy who we're not feeling confident in to defend these edges at one of these tackle spots without Q Moore, we're going to be in some trouble. They also have CJ Hart, linebacker for them. He's fantastic against the run. He's a great leadership guy. He's going to be kind of critical to plug that duo power, stuff that we might try to be running, if we're going to do the RPO stuff and there's a lot of inside runs, he's going to be a key guy to watch. But a stress point for them is their red zone. Opponents are scoring 80% in the red zone against them, with 50% of those being touchdowns. So watch for us to lean on Decker and Coleman down inside the 10.
Okay. Izzo, when you one thing just for your awareness, for whatever reason, in this defense, they run like they're like a left-right guy, like left outside linebacker, right outside linebacker. So the Gabe Akis, he'll actually go against Azzo the whole game from everything I've kind of read and seen.
Good.
And so that's a matchup that
helps.
Yeah, that's a matchup that I'm kind of interested in looking at, because when you look at Akis, I mean, he's definitely like that tone setter on that defense. I mean, heavy hands. He is just a havoc creator. He's probably a top 90 pick in the draft. I mean, he's one of those type players.
Day one, day two kind of guy.
Yep. And then you got Leon Lowry too, 6'3", 245-pound guy. He's forced a fumble, has a couple sacks on the year. It's unbelievable the amount of fumbles they force. I mean, that Aaron Henry, their defensive coordinator, and Bielema, they must just be teaching, the Peanut Tillman punch, man. The Chicago Bears, baby. Like, hey, they're
that's left over from Walters.
For sure.
Yeah.
So here's one thing too, kind of interesting. So Walters left Illinois with, and went to Purdue to be the head coach. Aaron Henry was the DB coach, who's now the defensive coordinator. So he kind of still has like this Walters base, Walters Philo type defense, maybe just with this like heavier front, where they're really big on stopping the interior run. And that's kind of what you hear with Izzo talking about some of those big boys in the middle. I mean, they run like a true, double eagle, tight type thing, where you got that guy over the nose, you got the nose, and then you got the two defensive tackles over the guards, and then you kind of just like rotate those guys depending on the strength. But this defense, they very much base 3-4, but they can move a little bit. One thing I'm interested though is, do you think this is the defense? When you look at yourself as defensive coordinator, do you think you try to spy Demond with this defense? Like, do you think they have the horses at the linebackers? Like, and I'm not talking outside linebackers, I'm talking like their Will or their Mike. Because I was trying to see, like, do they have that? And I don't know if they have somebody, like your Ohio States or even like your Marylands that really tried to spy Demond.
A lot of their linebackers are that like 235, 6'1" type guy, which are prototypical. That's a prototypical linebacker, like the I think his last name is Dylan Rosiek.
Yep. That's him.
Plays a ton for them in the middle. So, but to answer your question, do I think that the linebackers can run with Demond? No.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, they would either spy him with the safety.
Yeah, it'll either be Bailey or Scott.
Bailey. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The other thing I wanted to make sure to mention, because I was about to go in on their cornerbacks.
They are without Xavier Scott, who is an absolute showstopper at cornerback. He's injured. He got injured in one of their preseason games, and
Yeah, game
he's
3.
yeah. I don't think he's out the whole season, but I think everything says like he's out the majority of the season. But
That's
a
crazy that you say that because he's second on the team in tackles as of right now.
Yeah, I mean he's a big time cornerback. Did they give up 4.4 yards per play on the ground, which I thought is quite a bit for a defense that really tries to stop that. They're giving up 371 yards a game, which is 74th in the country. I think this is a game where UW should be able to score 30 plus. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting is that like you want the RPO to be open, and us to be running that a good amount, but where they struggle tackling is like corners and soft spots on the edge. Akis, absolutely elite pass rusher, terrible tackler. At least in terms of his grades for the season. And once you have a season grade trend after 6 or 7 games, like they do 7 games, he's at a 39 tackling grade. Tanner Heckle, who's one of their starting cornerbacks, is at a 35. So
Yep.
while we're talking about running in between the tackles, their interior defensive linemen do not struggle. Like they are solid there, and so it'll be, man. As I'm talking about this, we have to have schemed demand runs.
Have to.
100% needs
Have
to
to.
be. He needs to be our leading rusher in this game.
Well, and you know what that does too is because they kind of play those soft zones. If you watch the Duke game, the Duke wide receivers were finding soft spots in that defense all game. If it wasn't for like sack strip fumbles and stuff like that, it would have been a lot closer game than it was. So I think what you're saying is right. And if you start attacking the edges with not just Damon, but think about like the jet sweeps to RVB or Roebuck, you're going to start getting them moving laterally, and you have those open field opportunities against guys who struggle at tackling as opposed to running it into the teeth where they tackle a little bit more efficiently.
Mm.
Here's another thing that's kind of interesting really quick is that I just want to do this quick comparison is UW on third down converts at 52% like we talked about. That's 11th in the country. Illinois, they struggle getting teams off on third down. They're 121st in the country.
That's
And
big.
so that is. And so that's something that if they can't get us off the field, and that's something with Damon, and he will just make your life hell. If they can't get Damon off the field, man, we'll just run tempo. And by the third quarter, these big old defensive linemen, they're big, heavy hands, strong. It don't matter, man.
That was my next question was actually going to be how we attack this Illinois defense. So we're kind of jumped into that already. So we're talking about attacking the edges, going after the guys that don't tackle as well. And then in our third downs, making sure we're efficient and we have third and makeables, because if they are, those are things that we can get done because they are susceptible to that. At least they have been throughout the whole season.
Which puts emphasis, maybe I'll take the lead on this last little wrap up piece, which is puts emphasis on penalties got to be dialed in. Do not shoot yourself in the foot on third and short, please God, because that will ruin this game for us. And longer methodical drives, but what that does is it creates more opportunities for miscues, and so we need to be well rested. No AC/DC playing in the hotel, the night before. We need to be dialed in terms of discipline, especially if we're going to win this time of possession. This time of possession battle is going to be big for us.
Okay,
with these methodical drives.
Well, and that actually brings me to another question, because we're talking about needing to make these things happen, and a lot of it is going to matter with how the blocking is up front, and who we have playing. Decker, we saw has struggled all season with blocking, run blocking especially. Do you see us, if Q Moore can't go, putting in somebody else, like kind of going back to what we did last year, where maybe we bring an offensive lineman or something like that?
No, this is where I wanted to hear what you had to say, because you were talking about this before we started recording on what your idea was here.
Yeah, when we saw Max McCree go out, I think we saw UW try to do some slide protections to really help Faasalo with some of the blocking schemes. The issue with that is it left Decker kind of on an island. And I guess what I'm looking for here is if Q Moore can't go, I think you actually pull Decker on rundowns and you bring in an extra lineman. You bring in a Zach Henning, maybe a Pocky. And hear me out on this. People are going to go, well, he's going to be the starting left guard.
if you have Carver and Mills back, I still want Pocky on the field because he's been playing so well. So why not bring him in and have him be like your extra tackle, and
Why
we just
not?
absolutely maul these guys. And if Hatchett's been playing better, it sounds like I would love to see Zach Henning or Pocky get that extra, that extra big tight end, even go heavy sets. For hell, I don't care. Let's go 7 linemen. Let's go Henning and Pocky and just do some old school Iowa I formation and Nebraska I formation. Just run it right up there. You know what? So that's what I would like to see if Q Moore can't go. Is let's just bring in a big boy and we'll just fight our way to victory.
Man, I mean, if you think about how well Girian played last week against Michigan, you got a really solid offensive line with all those dudes in. Like if you do go commit 6 offensive linemen or even 7-0 linemen to a run, man, Jonah is gonna be he's gonna be losing his shit with excitement. This is like, man, like all those guys have been playing pretty well. If you consider Pocky, Landon, Girian, Mills, Carver, and Azo on the field at the same time, I'm taking
Dude,
that.
Izzo, don't you think if you were like gun to your head, don't you think if you could only pick one between Carver and Mills, don't you think Mills probably has a better shot at playing than Carver?
I think it's
And
the
I'm
other way
not
around.
No,
really.
I think you're right. I think they both. I think that it was a high ankle sprain, is my opinion on Mills, and I just happen to have a high ankle sprain that happened when I was walking back from the game for the Ohio State. And I'll tell you right now that I am fully healthy.
You're ready to play? Izzo's not on the injury report.
My weak
There-
ass left ankle has nothing on John Mills.
Well, the
Hey,
reason
but-
why I was asking that is like, what if Mills played and Carver didn't? I would almost rather see Mills play left tackle, have Pocky play the guard, and then you bring Henning in.
Yeah.
Henning definitely in as your
100%.
sixth
He's had
offensive
the
lineman.
Yes.
snaps too. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You guys, then my big question then is, what if both Mills and Willis can't play? Because that's also a very big reality that we're going to have to be facing. A guy coming off injury can get re-injured really easily, and if he can't play, are we just going back to Fa Solo and struggling?
This is what you're doing. You're going Champ at right guard or Champ at left guard, and you're putting Pocky at left tackle. I think.
I would love that.
I bet you they've worked that in. I really do. We heard a lot of stuff about Champ. Remember that? How they were saying like, man, he's pushing Hatchet. He's right there. Then you have it's like I think that's what you'd have to do is go like maybe Champ at right guard if that's what he's more comfortable, or Hatchet in one of those 2 guard positions, and then bump out Pocky.
Man, let's just hope that this isn't a scenario that happens.
Yeah.
I don't like any of the solutions necessarily, but I mean, if you have to go with one, then yeah, I think that I agree with Noah.
Yeah. To move away, can I say this really quick on the Q Moore thing? Even without the Q Moore thing, I think one thing I had in my notes that I think is going to be big for UW is I think we're going to have to go into like more 3 and maybe even 4 wide receiver sets.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally go a running back, the quarterback, 4 wide receivers, and just get the ball out quick and see what we can get, because I really think you can pick on these Illini corners.
I think that's the path. I like that path way more than trying to figure out this whole situation.
Yeah, I think exotic formations. I mean, dude, how many bunch formations have we ran this year? We ran the hell out of those with Kalen DeBoer, but I haven't seen a ton of those under Jedd Fisch, or just motion into trips, motion into stack. I mean, because then you get to see, are they in zone? Are they in man? Are they running with them? I mean, I want to see that. And the other pieces, attack their linebackers in space. I'm telling you, I think their linebackers are good. I just don't know if they're sideline to sideline type running backs. And I think they struggle in pass coverage as well. So I think there's opportunities to kind of get right here. Is this another game where you could see our wide receivers go, hey, or do we bring Jonah back into this pass game with some screens and let Jonah have another big game? Because dude, he's kind of like he's kind of quickly turning into like a pretty elite pass catcher too.
Oh,
no,
100%,
yeah, I totally agree. I think I was pushing back on you last time we talked about this because I was like, it's all dump offs, but no, you're right. Like, and there's something to be said about your ability to stay poised in bouncing outside or catching an underneath screen pass and then immediately being ready take it upfield, and he is extremely good at that. And
Oh,
then
and
still maintaining his ability to make guys miss in those types of field looks where he catches the ball and turns around. It's not the same as running between the tackles, and he's effective at both.
well, and
Yep.
there's a whole bunch of Big Ten DBs that have concussions and hurt shoulders after trying to take the bowling ball
Yeah.
down because nobody wants to see him in the open field if you don't weigh at least 240 pounds.
This is the Husky coaching staff has an immediate get right opportunity, specifically on offense. You have a chance to make up for what happened at Michigan. Like this, you could really earn your keep and earn a lot of trust if you come off that game and then fix the issues, because they're not small. You know, if you have Carver or one of the two, Carver and Mills, back, and you can be effective on offense against this defense, it'll make a lot of fans forget that we lost to Michigan on the road, and we'll excuse that away. And then you have a stretch where you might be able to string 3 wins against these next 3 opponents together and head into Oregon with 2 losses. And that is where a lot of people predicted where this team would be anyways. You
Yep.
know, is 8-2 heading into that game to decide whether or not you're going into the college football playoff. That's,
I think
that this game
nine and
tells you
two.
whether or not
nine and two.
9-2.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if we're at 9 wins, we're already over the expected win total that we were supposed to get.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, before we get into predictions, make sure you guys do me a big favor. There's a little link down there that says join the Discord. Our Dub Discord is the best Husky community out there. 2,900 strong, and it's free to join. With a small fee, you can join the VIP, and you could talk to Izzo and me and Noah and the rest of Husky Nation that is already in there. And I'll tell you what, all the best information hits the Discord first. If you want to know who's the big recruit that's going to be on campus that nobody knows about, the Discord is the place to find it. So make sure you go hit that link below. All right, guys, it's our favorite time of the show. It's prediction time, fellas. This is where we separate the good bettors from the crappy bettors. I don't know what we would call it. But I guess I'm going to kick this one off. And to be honest with you, I don't normally like doing this, but there's actually 2 predictions that I'm going to have. And it all depends on whether Carver Willis is going to start. And I think that more than anything, because I think Pocky has done a really good job filling in for John Mills right now. And so if Carver Willis starts, I think it's a whole different ball game. I think you're going to see UW come out, and you're going to see the UW you saw against Rutgers, or the UW you saw against the first 3 teams that we played. And I think you're going to see a score of 31-24 UW winning. If we're starting Fa Solo again, it's going to be a long day on Montlake, and I could see us losing 28-10.
Oh, damn. That would be such foof.
Yep.
Log me off of Twitter after that.
All right, Noah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I made my prediction thinking that one or both of those guys would be back. I just, from what I saw them getting off the bus, what I've kind of heard, I just think that those guys are going to be ready to go. I think if you're at 80%, I think you can get a big old cortisone needle and be ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
I really do. And I mean, it's happened to the best of us, man. And that's magic butter, man. That stuff works. So, but dude, playing on Montlake in this game, in my opinion, is huge. I think you go back into Champaign, and I think this is a tough game. But I think getting this at home is big. And I really need to start to see a score on some of these more upper echelon defensive Big Ten teams. But this team truly starts and stops with Luke Altmaier. He is their heartbeat. He's kind of what makes them who they are. I just think that the difference in this game is going to be on the defensive side of the ball, and who can make 1 or 2 or 3 stops. And this defense for Illinois, I'm sorry, man, this isn't the Ryan Walters defense of 2021, 2022 when they had Witherspoon and Newton. Without Xavier Scott, and I know they got Gabe Akis, and forgive us if we're butchering his name, but that's what I think it is. But I think our offense on Saturday is just too much. And like I said, I think our big hosses are going to be back. I think the Dogs win a close one. I think
Illinois will put some points up on us, but I think the Dogs win a close one, 34-30.
Ooh, the shootout. Ooh, I like the idea. I ain't seen a good shootout in a while. Okay. Izzo, take us home.
Yeah. Like Noah, I'm assuming one or both of those guys in Mills and Carver are back for this game. And so I'm baking that in. So I won't give two predictions on this because I think if you have one, then that is going to mitigate a lot. But I think not having both of them is a huge piece. That said, Mike reminded me there are mid-game injuries, and if one of those guys does, re-injure themselves somehow, that's when this prediction could go definitely left. I think that a huge piece of this is penalty discipline. Again, we got better last week. They didn't shoot us in the foot there. That said, you can't have it at home. We should be progressing there, and if we give away some drives, that could really cost us if we're looking at 3rd and 1 and we have a false start and it goes to 3rd and 6. Like, that's going to really hurt us in this game. That said, I am really liking the matchup between our secondary versus that wide receiver core. This bend don't break stuff actually kind of plays into the strength of our defense in the red zone. And I think we're going to be more effective than a lot of teams that they've played so far at stuffing the run. Because of the all the different bodies we have in the interior. With all that being said, 4th downs, 3rd downs, I love the matchup there too. We're favored on both sides of the football in both of those matchups on 3rd downs and 4th downs. I have UW winning this game 28-24. I don't think it's perfect throughout. I think Damon does have some miscues still, but not nearly as many. I just don't see a circumstance where we're only held to 10, 14 points in this game. I think Damon is the type of leader that can step up in the face of adversity. And I don't think he's going to fold and have this be a game that tears the season down and tears it apart. I think they recognize that they have a huge opportunity in front of them to take the step forward, and that this game can be explained away at the end of the year if all things go right. You're playing at Husky Stadium, man. It's just different. It's going to be loud. Everyone's going to be pissed off, players included. They're going to be dialed in for this game, wanting to get right. Illinois is really good on the interior, and I don't think we mentioned James Thompson Jr. on the interior for them. That kid can absolutely cause issues
Ruckus.
in the middle. Not on the pass so much, but we're going to have to get creative. We have to do this stuff that Noah's talking about, where we're design runs to the outside and we're doing RPOs, and there's some in the middle, but also we're scheming Jonah on the outside with whether it be screen passes or it's zone runs to the outside. We have to be a mixed bag. We can't
go away
be
from their
predictable.
strength.
Yeah, we just can't be predictable.
Yep. All right, you guys, before we get out of here, do me a favor. Make sure you go like and subscribe. It's really, really important for getting us up in the algorithm and making sure all you beautiful people see us.
Dude, comment too. People, Illinois fans, comment. Dog fans, comment, man. It's fun to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with Illinois fans.
Give us.
Also, yeah, and if you guys have any questions, that's the place to do it. Do it down in the comments. Do it on Twitter. Do it in the Discord. Interact with us. We like to talk to people.
We'll respond.
Yeah, we will.
We'll come chirp at you in the comments.
We will. I have been known to engage in some ulterior activities with people in the comments, so it could happen.
If we miss something, let us know. We'd love to hear it. So,
Amen.
Yep. All right, you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you here next week. Same dog time, same dog channel. I'm Mike Flunt. That's Izzo. That's Noah, and this is Dubbed Up. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.
We them boys.
I'm always excited to hear what Noah's sign off is. He's always got something dialed